Hi everyone, my name is Tara Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our book of the week, which is House of Bane and Blood by Alexis Menard. First, this is a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't read this book yet, don't worry about it, it won't be spoiled for you here. There will be some spoiler-related things that I want to discuss, but that'll be later on in the video and you will get plenty of warning. If you'd like to join in on any of the discussions, send me your thoughts, comments, or even a short video clip of you discussing the book, then I'll list the next upcoming 4 books in the description below. So I rated this book 4.25 stars. I did really enjoy it. However, little confession, when I did originally announce this book, I actually announced A City of Mirth and Malice, which I didn't realise until I went to sit and read it, that was actually the second book in the series. That was actually a bit of a pet peeve moment for me. I do usually check inside the book to make sure that, it's the first book in the series or if it's a part of a series, but inside this one, it just said also by this author. It didn't state clearly that it was in fact the second book in the series, and so I just assumed that A City of Mirth and Malice was the first one. Like, if it's a part of a series, I would usually expect it to say also in the series. That said, it worked out fine because I ended up reading both books and I did enjoy them, but I will say that I preferred the first one, I think, over the second one. Quick summary, this is a dark romantasy that is set in a world of mafia-style houses, magic and political tension following an arranged marriage between 2 rival figures. It blends fantasy with this mafia, almost Peaky Blinders style aesthetic. So you have power struggles, morally grey characters, and a romance that is built on tension, rivalry, and forced proximity. If I had to compare this to any other book, I'd probably say that it has a similar kind of vibe to Shadow Between Us or Throne of the Fallen and Nectar of the Wicked. It has that same sort of morally grey romance with power dynamics and character-driven tension where the romance is very much the centre of the book. However, there's still a great narrative and hook. It's just one of those books that's very easy to read and very easy to enjoy. I flew through it, and in part I think that is because of the tropes. It leans quite heavily on things like morally grey characters, forced proximity, enemies to lovers, the arranged marriage, and those are things that I usually really enjoy. I also really liked the characters, even when they were being frustrating at times. I mean, the main character especially definitely had moments where you wanted to shake her a little bit, but I didn't mind so much because I think that adds to their dynamics. Now, that romance I do think is where the book really shines because the banter, the tension, and the push and pull between the characters I think worked really well, especially for a very basic enemies to lovers. And the slow burn just made it even more satisfying. Now, there is some spice in this book, however, I think that it was written quite well. It didn't feel excessive, and the tension is definitely there and it builds with the relationship, which I think just makes those moments work that bit better. It is very much giving dark mafia romance, but in a fantasy setting. The world building is definitely there, but it doesn't go into huge amounts of detail. It doesn't spend a lot of time explaining things, which does make it accessible and very easy to get into. Personally, I would have preferred a little bit more depth to the world building just to flesh things out a little bit more, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book. Honestly, I think the main reason it didn't reach my top tier for romantasy books is just down to personal preference. I do tend to prefer books that are more trials and quests, a little bit more world building and politics, while still being very easy to read and very fast paced. Whereas this one tends to lean a little bit more into the politics and the arranged marriage, which isn't bad, it's just not always my absolute favourite. I like a little bit more angst to really elevate it. So as for the question, would I recommend the book? Yes, I would. I mean, there's definitely books in this genre that I would probably recommend first. However, this is still a really solid, easy to enjoy romantasy. Especially if you love enemies to lovers, slow burn, and lots of tension and banter. So, will I be reading any more by this author? Yes, absolutely. And I already have. I mean, I went straight into reading the second one, so I feel like that already tells you everything you need to know about how much I enjoyed this first book. In the video, I said that you get plenty of warning for any upcoming spoilers. Now, this is that moment, so if you haven't read this book yet, I would suggest going and doing that first, because beyond this point, there will absolutely be spoilers. One of the strongest parts for me with this book was how the relationship developed. The tension never felt like it was forced, and the progression from enemies to something more just felt very natural, especially with, the forced proximity and the arranged marriage pushing them together. I also did just enjoy seeing some of the character development play out, even if it did lead to some frustration along the way. I also think that that frustration did work out in the book's favour because it made the payoff even more satisfying, even with that ending. But overall, House of Bane and Blood was a fun, addictive, trope heavy romantasy that's just incredibly easy to get into. It might not be the deepest world building or the most complex plot, and I do think that it could have been executed a little bit better. However, overall, I did really enjoy it. I think that it delivered exactly as promised, and I think that it does it well. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week, we'll be discussing Wolf by Paisley Hope. So don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by Sunday, the 10th of May, at the latest, to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Discord. The following week will be Starside, but don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye. If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message.